Tonight on Closer Look, coyotes in urban areas is becoming an increasing problem. Residents in Liberty Village and Fort York, two Toronto area neighborhoods, are divided over how the city should handle coyotes in the neighborhood. Toronto Today reporter Alex Flood has been covering this story and joins us tonight. From Toronto, Alex, the Coyote Safety Coalition, a grassroots organization based in Liberty Village, claims its members have documented more than 90 altercations involving coyotes since November. Why is this getting worse?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. It's been a big issue for the last 4 or 5 months, it seems, over there. For anyone outside of Toronto, Liberty Village is the southwesternmost downtown riding in Toronto. So kind of near the harbor front, pretty close to Ontario Place. Funny folks have visited there. So yeah, it's been a pretty significant uptick, at least from what we're seeing since November. The belief is that the coyotes that have been around the area have just simply gotten more comfortable with the area. So I think when we're looking at aggressive behaviors, it's just the confidence among the coyotes that are currently there. At least that's our understanding from what we're hearing from both the coalition and the city. It seems that there's about 4 of them. They are habituated. They are in a pack. So essentially, they've just gotten very, very comfortable with Liberty Village. This is their home and their turf now. So when it comes to altercations that they've been involved in, I think it really is just a confidence thing. And these coyotes, because they're confident, don't mind approaching pets and whatnot. Naturally, they are scared of humans, but when it comes to pets and other animals, it seems like they've gotten more and more comfortable approaching that. So it does seem to be an issue that's certainly been on the rise, Scott.
So 2 other organizations, Alex, who have gotten involved, Critter Getter and Coyote Watch Canada, both seem to have conflicting approaches as to how this should be handled. What are the differences, and what is the city's position on all of this?
Yeah, definitely. Those 2 organizations are teaming up right now because they are trying to implement aversion techniques. And those aversion techniques were recommended by a panel of experts that the city hired to solve the coyote problem. And basically, these 2 are working together collaboratively in Liberty Village to essentially scare the coyotes off, make them aware that they don't own the territory, and basically just keeping them out of harm's way from people who are trying to enjoy the space. But the conflict, I don't know if there's necessarily conflict between the 2 groups, but the way that they approach issues, I think, ranges. You have one group like Critter Getter, who is an organization that is known for humanely putting animals down and having to kill animals, but it's in Coyote Watch Canada, the other organization's purview, that they don't want to be putting animals down. So they kind of come at this from different backgrounds and different experiences. In fact, you could argue polar opposites in what they advocate for. So the city has brought 2 organizations together that are kind of on different ends of how they approach animal issues, or how they're instructed to approach animal issues, maybe perhaps to balance the issue, and we'll see what comes of it. But we haven't heard much from the city in terms of how the aversion techniques have been working. But you got 2 different organizations working on this together right now.
Okay, so the coyotes can't be moved more than 1 kilometer from their current location. Why is that?
It's an issue that is brought up probably every day in Liberty Village. A lot of people are confused why they can't be moved. Why can't we get them out of here? Under provincial legislation, I believe it is under the Fishery and Wildlife Act, where wildlife like coyotes are essentially protected. They don't want the risk of spreading disease to other communities. They want to make sure the wildlife, because this is their home turf now, that if you displace them or move them somewhere else, that they could essentially die because they aren't acclimated or accustomed to the new area you're putting them in. So the 1 kilometer rule was put in to make sure that they're not going to be losing their home turf, and that they'll still have some surroundings that are familiar to them. But this has been a highly contentious debate. People don't understand what the point of this rule is. It's certainly not helping the cause for the people that want the coyotes out of there. And that's why now we're having a debate about euthanization, because the coyotes can't be moved and because pets have died. It doesn't seem like there's a lot remaining options left on the table besides the aversion techniques that the city has employed right now. So some people are scratching their heads while others just don't want the coyotes to be killed at all. So lots of moving parts on this at the moment.
All right, Alex, let's dive into that a little more. The reality is this: pets are getting killed, and with residents so divided, how are city officials navigating the ethical debate around euthanasia as a potential solution? Have there been public consultations or forums to talk about this more?
Absolutely. The city has been relatively clear since, I'd say, probably 2 months ago that euthanasia is on the table, but it is a last resort option. They do not want to have this particular problem get to that point, but it's one that I feel, as the days are going on, and my understanding of the situation is that the likelihood of this is going up. Several people in Liberty Village believe that this is an inevitability, and that the current aversion techniques and the current things that the city is doing right now is just delaying something that unfortunately we might be seeing in the next few weeks, maybe perhaps months, if this goes on that long. But yeah, there's dueling petitions right now in Liberty Village. I'd say if you'd have a 50-50 chance in asking a resident how they feel about euthanizing them or not. It seems like a very split issue at the moment, at least according to the petitions. Again, the city doesn't want to have it get to this point. They have had some consultations with residents and how to deal with coyotes, respond to them. They're doing basically everything they can before they decide on that, because what euthanizing coyotes in a dense neighborhood looks like isn't going to be relatively pretty. I mean, it's a high traffic area. Lots of people are outside enjoying the parks. Nobody wants to see a coyote get shot while they're walking in the park, and the city knows that. But unfortunately, it seems like as we're into mid-April here, eventually going into May, that this might be an eventuality. And it's just an unfortunate reality of the situation. A lot of the people that support euthanasia didn't want it at first, but now they're just tired of pets getting attacked and people getting attacked. So we're kind of just getting near to that point right now, I think, Scott.
What measures, Alex, are being taken to ensure that residents understand and follow the guidelines for preventing interactions with coyotes, such as avoiding feeding them or keeping pets leashed?
Yeah, you said it right there. And those types of comments appear to be falling on some deaf ears now, because when residents in Liberty Village hear that, they think, well, I've already been doing that. We've all already been doing that. We've been leashing the dogs. We've been making sure garbage is thrown out. When they're still getting those recommendations from the city or from Coyote Watch Canada or from the Wildlife Center, they just feel like it's redundant at this point. But one of the points that the Wildlife Center brought up was the fact that it only takes one person to mess this up. If one person is littering or one person isn't taking out their garbage, that's enough to attract an entire pack of coyotes and make them comfortable with the environment. So although the residents there, rightfully so, feel like they're doing everything that they can be, all it takes is that one bad apple, essentially, to throw the whole system off. And it is of the belief of these organizations that this is probably what is happening and eventually could lead to euthanasia. So again, the city, these organizations are just pushing people to make sure that they're aware. They're putting signs up in the area to make sure they're aware. They're spreading good positive tips on how to deal with the coyotes. So I mean, right now, besides the aversion techniques, trying to scare them off, that's essentially all they can do at this point. That's all they feel they can do at this point. And we'll just see how that goes over the next few weeks, I suppose.
All right, Alex, finally, there's an obvious educational component to interactions with wild animals. What should people be doing if they encounter a coyote?
For sure. Goes without saying, right? Don't approach one. If you see one, just avoid it. If it gets pretty close to you or you're concerned that it's going to approach you or your dog, then the aversion techniques, scaring them away, yelling, waving your arms, just making yourself noticeable and kind of just go at it in that sense. Kind of like a bear, how you would almost, if you don't want the animal close to you, then do everything you can to scare it away. The city does not recommend particularly throwing things at them or getting perhaps physical with them, but We've heard the stories where a coyote will attack a pet, and the pet owner's got to do what they got to do. So if that means shoving the coyote off, then yeah, I mean, from my understanding, the city is okay with you doing that because you got to protect yourself and your animal. But calling 311 is a big thing as well, and a big tip. If you see one doing something poorly, or if you see someone feeding a coyote, then yeah, get on the phone, call 311 right away. Depending on the situation, 311 might get an officer or two in the area as well to deal with the situation themselves. We haven't really seen that yet. But yeah, 311 when in doubt.
Toronto Today reporter Alex Flood on coyotes in Liberty Village and Fort York from Toronto Tonight. That's all for Closer Look. We'll be back tomorrow night at 7 with another edition. For all of us at Village Media, thanks for watching.